Hello, it has been a while. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably have some sort of idea of what's been going on with me. But I am back and I am making a dress. I am making the McCall's M8141 in view A, though I am going to be making a couple of changes to it. I'll be using these two fabrics. The mushroom fabric is a jersey knit from Joann's, and the gingham is a bed sheet that I picked up from a local antique shop. Over the weekend, I made a mock-up. I, of course, started by printing and cutting out all of the pattern pieces. I immediately, right off the bat, cut out the wrong sleeve pattern, and so I had to reprint and recut out the correct sleeve. After I quickly cut out and threw together the mock-up, I realized I was very much looking like the ghost of a sickly Victorian child. So here's the mock-up I made. The sleeves are okay. This was my very first time using a invisible zipper, and it went okay. These are the sleeves that it's supposed to have, and I don't really like them. I think they're really weird. How they were constructed was weird, and overall, just not really feeling it. On the other hand though, I threw this sleeve in. It's the same pattern as the upper sleeve, but I didn't do any of the pleating that it called for, and I just threw it in so I could attach the collar. And I oddly like it a lot more than the puff sleeve, so I think I might go with the more flowy sleeve here. And the pattern calls for two different types of sleeves, and that just makes it seem really weird. It kind of like caves into itself, and overall I'm just not a huge fan of it. The front is alright. It's fairly well right at my waistline, and oddly enough the waistline line does actually fall where my waist is. That's pretty uncommon for most patterns, especially for someone of my size. So overall the fit, totally fine. I think what I'm also going to change is the collar. The collar is a bit too high for my preference. I think I'll cut it in half, so about like right there-ish instead. And the length, it is about floor length for me, just right at my ankles. So I'm gonna probably take about 5-6 inches off of it, just so it's closer to my, just right below my knee, so it's more of like a summertime dress instead of a more formal dress. Well, yeah, those are the major changes that I'm going to make with the collar and the sleeves and the hemline. But overall, I think it'll turn out all right. Hopefully, I'm not used to so much poof around this area, so it just always throws me off. But for a mock-up, I think it was the most successful mock-up that I've made, even with the invisible zipper there. So I realized I did not explain what was going on with the sleeves very well. Basically, there's an outer sleeve and an inner sleeve pattern. For some reason, the seam length on both of them, on the inner sleeve, the seam is a little bit shorter than the outer sleeve, which kind of causes the outer sleeve to cave inward and look extremely bulbous. So instead, I'm just going to be using the outer sleeve pattern with no pleating at all. Then I got started on the lining layer. Once I made that, I realized I probably should oil my machine, since I haven't done that once in the last 3 years of owning it. I then of course struggled to get my bobbin case back in, only to realize that I was putting the cover plate on backwards. So then, after spending some time admiring the cuteness of the mushroom fabric, it was time to overcome my fear of knit fabric and start laying out the pattern pieces. This was my first time working with knit fabric since the very first dress that I sewed, which was not good. So of course I started by sewing the bodice pieces together and then inserting the gathering threads along the top.
I then moved on to the sleeves, and of course, just to be safe, I had to make sure that I had mirror sleeves because you never know. Since the sleeves were not symmetrical, I had to make sure I was putting them on the correct side, which did take a little bit of brain power since I typically don't work the single-sided fabric, specifically for this reason. But once they were in, it was time to move on to the much easier midriff section. I noticed on my video of the mock-up that the midriff in the back seemed to collapse in on itself, so I ended up taking about an inch off of the top. Once I finished the bodice, I put the pockets in. I used the method of putting them on each panel, right sides together, sewing them, and sewing the skirt seams together with the pocket as part of that seam. I did end up putting these a little bit too low. I'll eventually figure out my preferred pocket height. Then I was able to attach the skirt to the bodice and prepared it for bag lining. Here you can also see the twill tape that I used to reinforce the pockets on the waistline, which helped prevent the pocket from pulling too much on the skirt seam since that was cut on a bias. I attached the two layers together along the back seams, and I thought I would save some time by sewing the sleeves together too. I'm not sure what happened or why, but that did not work at all. I ended up having to seam rip those because I could not figure out what went wrong there. Instead, I just threw on some TV and connected them by hand with a ladder stitch. I treated the two layers as one when I was putting the invisible zipper in. I did watch some YouTube videos about how to put an invisible zipper in with a lining, but I just could not figure it out. But since I did that, that meant that I needed to finish the hem by hand. With the hem done, the mushroom dress was complete. The sleeves ended up being a little more stiff than I had anticipated, and I don't think I did a very good job ironing them, but I am extremely proud of the invisible zipper. I've only ever done about 3 zippers total in my life, and this was by far the best looking one. I also added a hook and eye on the collar. So, until next time, I don't know.